All right, so we're in Genesis. Genesis chapter 24. Genesis chapter 24. Picking up where we left off-ish last week in dealing with Isaac and Rebekah. We had Abraham. He's now old and well stricken in age, right? And he sent off his servant and said, go to my kindred and get a wife for my son, right? And Abraham made the point of, I'm not leaving Canaan anymore. This is where God wants me to be, so I'm not leaving this place anymore. I get what God wants me to do, and it's where it is, so I'm staying right here. Okay? He also said, don't take my son out of here, because we know where the promise is too, right? It's through Abraham, Isaac, and continues on. So he's going to not allow his son to be dragged out of there for any reason. So he tells his servant, you get up and you go and you bring back, right? And that was his eldest servant. And the servant's biggest question was, well, what if she doesn't want to come back, right? Which is a valid question, because this type of marriage arrangement happens all the time, I'm sure, right? So the servant leaves. He hauls himself on a camel for 20 days, goes off to Haran and miraculously finds the brother, the family of Abraham, the brother there, and meets Rebekah, right? So if we pick up then in, let's pick up in verse 12 of chapter 24. Genesis chapter 12. And this is the servant then praying. He pulls up to the well of the city, and he's like, I'm here now. Now what do I do? Right? So he prays, right? And this is the servant speaking in verse 12. And he, the servant, said, O Lord God of my master Abraham, I pray thee, send me good speed this day. Show kindness unto my master Abraham. And he goes on then, continuing with his prayer. So what did the servant do at that point? In effect, what did he do? Who can tell me? Ian, what did he do?
He asked God to bless him.
True, but I think it's more than that, right? Take it a step farther. What did he ask God to do? Make it happen, right? He's like, okay, look, I'm doing what Abraham did, or Abraham told me to do. So God, you're the God of Abraham. You're the one that's kind of commanded all this to happen. So guess what? Lord, it's on you. You got to make it happen. If this is your will, your promise, right? A continuation of your promise, look, you got to make it happen, because guess what? I don't know what I'm doing, right? Okay, so that's what he does. He tosses it on to God. And then what happens? What happens in verse 15? Wife, can you read 15 for us?
And it came to pass, before he had done speaking, that behold, Rebekah came out, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder.
Okay, so even before he's done praying, what happens? God's answering his prayer already, right? Okay, so think about that. Servant comes up to well, and then he starts praying. And then before he's done praying, she's coming up. So what does that tell you? What does it tell you about timing? Randy. Okay, sometimes it happens right away. But think about what has to happen in Rebekah's life to get her there.
God has to know ahead of time, have perfect knowledge, and he also has perfect timing.
Right? God has to know ahead of time, and he has perfect timing. So if the servant is praying and Rebekah shows up at the exact time he's praying, what has to happen before that? Right? God has to be working in Rebekah to have her be there at that time, right? How many of you know what time Sunday school starts? Right? And yet, how many of you just walked in late? Okay, well now think about that. What happens if that happens to Rebekah? What happens to that whole story? Right? But who's in control? Who's working all this out to bring her here at same time as Camel Guy? Right? How long did it take Camel Guy to get here? 20-some days, right? How coincidental is that timing, right? Who's involved in all of that? Okay, very good. God is in control of all that. So, we have, what is Rebekah doing? Her chores, right? What's her job? That's her job. That's her chores. That's her business. What is she not doing? Right? She's not thinking, today's the day I'm getting married. It's happening. I can feel it. Today's it. Right? She's not, when she comes to the well, what is her focus? Right? As we read through the rest of the story, what did she do in 16? She came to the well and did what? Drew water. What did she not do? Say it again, Tony. Sure, she's not looking for a husband, but what else? Who is all there at this time? Right, because what time is it? If we look at, in verse 11, he's at the well of water at the time of the evening, even the time that women go out to draw water. Right? So who else is all there? Other women are there, right? It's the time. It's the time everybody goes out, everybody takes their pictures, and off they go, right? It's the time. So there's other women there. What is she not doing? We just heard a little bit about this on Wednesday when we went through, was it Wednesday? Titus. Sunday night? When we went through Titus chapter 2, right? What is she not doing? Gossiping with other women. Because, right, when one woman comes up to another woman, what happens? They ignore each other and just do their work. Right? That's what people do. That's their natural tendency, is when we get together as a group of people, we just ignore each other and mind our own business. Don't look at me. Right? No, we talk to each other. Right? But what is she not involved in? She's not involved in the gossip of the town. She's not being idle, right? Because what is she doing? She got there. She's like, I got work I got to do, so I'm hitting the water and I'm getting out of Dodge, right? So she's not being idle. She's not being a gossip. What else do we know about her? As she meets this servant in 17, and the servant ran unto her and said, let me, I pray thee, drink a little water of thy pitcher. What did she do? Gave him a drink. Okay, so what does that tell you about her? She's kind, right? And then what else? What happens after that? What happens after she gives him a drink? She drew water for the camels. What does that tell you? Do you know how much water a camel drinks? She's generous, right? She's not afraid of hard work. What else? Sure, she's sensitive to other people's needs. What about the needs of the animals? Right? Okay? Because think about what she came to the well to do that day. What did she come to the well to do? Well, she's getting water for her family, right? Okay? So she comes bearing a pitcher upon her shoulder, as it says. All right, how big of a pitcher this is, I don't know, right? But how many pitchers full do you think it takes to fill up the trough to feed or let all the camels drink. Because how many camels are there? Do you remember? How many camels did the servant take in the beginning of 24? What'd you say, Peter? It is 10. It is 10. He took 10 of his, verse 10. The servant took 10 camels of the camels of his master. Right? So it's not one thirsty camel, it's 10 thirsty camels. And those guys drink, Randy.
I was kind of thinking originally going to drive to the point, like what a coincidence, all these things, like putting a man in the moon, all the thoughts that had to go through it was so easy for God. But I think you could drive it at a different point, which is like what a good woman she was and how that kind of point.
Our points do shift quickly, yes. So yeah, that's where we are now, is the kind of woman that she is. Peter.
He needed to drink water, therefore he didn't have means to get water, so he couldn't water his own camels.
Sure.
So she's seeing what's happening. I think she has that kind of heart where people look, and sometimes even Christians, if you pray, God, show me how to be a help and a blessing to somebody.
Mm-hmm. And you got to pay attention to those types of things, right? And that's where you're going with that. I like that. Very good. All right. So we kind of have an idea of what's going on as Rebekah comes up. There's one other detail that we learn about her here, though. And what is that? Well, there's probably two other things, right? So this cat comes up to you and asks you for a drink of water, right? Belle, what do? When some cat comes up, Ian walks up to you in the middle of the day, can I have a drink of water? And you're like, what? What do? Do you? Okay. And now, was that your plan for the day? Do you have other things you could be doing, right? You got kids running around and other things that you got to keep track of, right? So is Ian an inconvenience to you? You want to say yes. Because that's the right answer. Ian is an inconvenience. Sorry, Ian. You're used to it, right? Right? So what does that tell us about her? Did she have other chores to do at home, or do I just get the water and then I go home and I put my feet up and I'm done for the day? Peter.
I can think of a certain individual that I know, basically, has a tendency to get bent out of shape when God interrupts his plans.
Uh-huh.
And some people get very focused on plan, and that's, you can go too far accepting worldly philosophies, yes, you gotta have a plan. But God does throw interruptions, so you gotta be submissive.
So when God threw this monkey wrench into Rebekah's plans for the day, what did she do? She rolled with it. What'd you say? Yeah, she rolled with the punches, right? So what does that tell us about her and her nature? She's flexible, right? She's flexible. Think about the rest of the story, because I know you know the rest of the story. What kind of woman has to go along with this plan, right? What's the attitude of the woman that has to be there in order to go along with this plan, right? Because as we see in the rest of the plan, it's not traditional at all, right? Okay, so those are some of the kind of things that we learn about her, okay? And then in chapter 24, verse 22, right? It came to pass, as the camels had done drinking, that the man took a golden earring of a half shekel weight and 2 bracelets for her hands of 10 shekels weight of gold, and then asked her, whose daughter art thou, right? So, Shirley, right? You're working at Chick-fil-A, right? And then customer comes up and you give them their order, right? And then you're minding your own business and he pops his earring on you and these big old gold bracelets on you. And now what? Now what are you thinking there? She's going with him, right? What are you thinking? You're a woman. What are you thinking right then?
Well, I don't know.
Sandy, what are you doing?
I would think he was pretty nice.
You think he's pretty nice? Because that happens all the time. Mrs. Gregg, what are you thinking? Your single days, right? You're just minding your own business. Some dude pops some bracelets on you and an earring. And it's like, so whose daughter are you? Maybe this will work, she says. That's awesome, Randy.
All the gold and all that stuff for Jesus. He's kind of like that kind of a little bit less, of course, less than Jesus, but a little different. Like this is a special person that you're meeting.
Okay, it's a special person. Who's the special person, the girl or the servant? Or who the servant is representing? Who's special? Okay. So Clint, you and Belle there, right? Did you ever try that? Just pop out some big old gold bracelets and an earring for her? All the time? Yeah? Whenever you need to make a point, right? Just pop out the gold, right? So what was the point of that, you think? To get her attention? Okay. Rick?
Well, he put a stipulation on it in the first place, if she would draw the water and then give the camels water also. And so he knew, I think in his mind, this is the one.
In verse 21, it says, and the man wondering at her held his peace, to wit, whether the Lord had made his journey prosperous or not. So he's like, wow, this was quick. Is this it? And he pops his gold on her. So what's he trying to do? Randy.
Knighting her or acknowledging her as a special person. Like, this person is special by doing something extraordinarily...
Why? Why is he going to this extraordinary step? Peter.
Well, they have to give dowry back in those days, so I think he's already breaking the ice, if you will, and maybe in her mind that there's something going on here. And then it's like, okay, whose daughter are you? Well, that usually means that someone's seeking a wife.
Okay. Belle, do you agree? Is that what you would think? Some dude pops jewelry on me, he wants to marry me? Is that what you're thinking? No, what are you thinking? Some weirdo pops some gold on you and you're like, what in the world is happening here? Valerie, what about you?
Oh, yeah, that's what I would think.
Crazy?
No.
Marrying. Okay, so we got conflict. Wife, some dude pops jewelry on you? What are you thinking? She'd be stunned. She never gets any jewelry. Shirley.
I just think he's weird.
Think he's weird. Okay, Sandy.
I think he's trying to impress her.
Trying to impress her.
He wants something.
And her
He wants something. Okay, that's the next question. Okay, wait a minute. Clint, go ahead.
I was just thinking, if she's giving her gold and earrings, if I were her, I would think this is serious. Because gold is worth a lot of money, it's valuable.
But what is serious?
What his intentions are.
What are his intentions? She doesn't know at that point. All she did, he asked for a drink of water. She gave it to him. I got bracelets and an earring now. What in the world?
With that day and age and that culture, like you mentioned the dowry, that I would think that might be her mindset, that his intentions is marriage. Maybe she may not know for who, but
Why didn't she say no? Why'd she take it? Belle, why'd she take it? Why'd she take the jewelry? It matched her dress. Gold goes with everything, right? Randy.
I experienced things that, well, that's kind of odd. It kind of strikes you a little bit. Why did that person do that?
Sure.
It's kind of particular. It strikes you in a certain way. You think about it. It makes an impression on you, and so it affects your life.
Okay. So the question then is why did he do that? There's the impression. What in the world, dude? Why are you doing this to me? Right, Rick?
He said, in verse 23, he says, whose daughter art thou? And then right away he says, do you have room for me?
Yeah.
I think he was trying to really find out who this woman was. He wanted to get to know, who she was.
Okay. All right. Possibly he wanted to know who she was, right? Let's move on. Let's keep that in the back of our heads, right? Because then we go down to 23 through 32, right? And this is the family with the lodging stuff, right? In 23, he asks whose daughter out there that Rick just mentioned. And then she tells him in verse 24 her whole family line right there, because that's how we talk nowadays, right? I'm the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, which she bare unto Nahor, right? And we have plenty of room, right? So the man bowed there and then worshiped the Lord, okay? And then he stays there as in 28, the damsel runs and tells them of her mother's house these things. And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban. And Laban ran out unto the man unto the well. And it came to pass when he saw the earring and the bracelets upon his sister's hands, and when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, Thus spake the man unto me, that he, Laban, came unto the man, and behold, he stood by the camels at the well. And in 31, he's saying, Come in, thou blessed of the Lord, et cetera there. So what happened there? What do you see happening there? Whose attention was got there? Randy.
Brother, it's kind of interesting how they relate to life back then as opposed to nowadays. Everything's a little wonder. Well, what's that? What's that? Nowadays.
So as Rebekah comes running in and tells her family this story, what is Laban noticing? He's noticing the gold, isn't he? Right? And then how does that change his actions?
He's got some for me.
Exactly. This guy's got money. He's got stuff for me. I want to know this guy, right? He's a rich guy. I want to know that guy, right? Because then he says in 31, Come in, thou blessed of the Lord. Wherefore standeth thou without, right? So come on in, buddy. We got plenty of room for you, man, right? But that got his attention. Because what's interesting too is in where'd it go? What happened in 29? What did Laban do in 29? After he saw the gold and with the bracelets and the earring, what did he do? He ran. He ran to this guy. All right. So what did Laban notice? He noticed that gold, right? And so he ran. All right. Very good. What's interesting then too is in 31 that he says, Come in, thou blessed of the Lord. So what does that tell you there? They at least know of the Lord there, right? We know further on down the line with Laban and Rachel and Leah and the daughters that, Rachel ends up stealing Laban's gods. But so there's at least a mix of stuff that's going on here. But they do know of the Lord. All right. Chuck, you had your hand up?
Yeah. It's pretty clear that they had the prosperity gospel back then, too.
Yeah, sure. Very good.
Lord, because he got money.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear that his character didn't change later on when he was dealing with Jacob.
Yeah, that's true. His focus on that money, on the goods, on the prosperity end of things. Randy.
I'm old-fashioned. I like to believe that maybe there are people, they see gold and they think about something other than just the money. They think about the character of a guy that's offering gold like that. Maybe there are people like that, I think.
There are probably people like that.
Maybe that's all.
Yeah, I would doubt it. His focus was pretty much on that gold right there. All right. So then in 33, the servant and his men come in, right? And food is set before him, right? But he says in 33, I will not eat until I have told mine errand. And then they tell him, all right, tell us your errand. And he goes through the whole story again. I'm Abraham's servant. And Chuck mentioned the prosperity gospel, right? And that's his focus there. The servant too is the Lord hath blessed my master greatly, right? So I'm trying to entice you. I'm trying to lay out my stats of my master. All right, he's rich, he's great, he's got flocks, he's got herds, he's got silver and gold and men servants and maid servants and camels and asses. And they're like, all right, dude, great, it's wonderful. And Sarah, my master's wife, bare a son to my master when she was old. All right, so we get to the part done where he has a son. And in 37, my master made me swear, saying, thou shalt not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I dwell. So as he's telling his story, my master Abraham's awesome. And then he has his son, and the son is getting everything. And, well, they sent me to Canaan to find a wife for the son. What pops into your head when you heard the word wife for the first time in this story? Nothing? Belle, what pops in your head? You're Rebekah. You just heard wife now for the first time. You're like, wait, what? Right? Shirley, you just heard wife. What are you thinking? Did you notice it?
Yeah, great.
All right. So in 37, we got the first mention of the word wife. But thou shalt, in the 38 we pick up, but thou shalt go unto my father's house and to my kindred and take a wife unto my son. It's like, wait a minute. Who is of the family, the kindred of Abraham? Wait, that's us. How many girls are in this house? One. Uh-oh. That limits opportunities. Right? In the 38, that's where we picked up, and take a wife unto my son. And I swear unto my master, well, what if she won't follow me, right? And go down to 40. And he said unto me, the Lord, right? So the servants, again, mentioning the Lord, before whom I walk, will send his angel with thee and prosper thy way. And thou shalt take a wife for my son of my kindred and of my father's house. Okay? And then 41. You'll be clear of the oath. And 42, he starts to tell his story. He's like, okay, I came to the well. And in 43, this woman came up, and I asked her to drink, and she fulfilled everything that I prayed for in 44. And in 45, and before I had done speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah. So now if you're Rebekah and you're hearing this story, and I'm supposed to come and find a wife, and I came from afar, and he's rich, and he's great, and he's wonderful, and I prayed, and so I got to the well, and I prayed, and as I'm done speaking, her. What are you thinking, Belle? He shouted, and Belle came to the well. What goes on in your head? Probably that. Oh, wait, what? Right? And then in 48, and I bowed down my head and worshipped, right? And blessed the Lord God of my master Abraham, which led me in the right way to take my master's brother's daughter to his son. And now if thou wilt deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. So he tells his whole story and says, it's her. Can I take her? So Rick, how'd that go with faith? Right? Some dude just pops some jewelry up on her. Can I take her? Right? How'd that go? That happened out of the blue for you, didn't it?
She must have been pretty in tune with the Lord, because she saw what that servant said about everything that was going to happen, and she goes, man, I bet she was thinking, this must be of the Lord, I don't know, but like if it was me, if I was the father, I'd say, hey, you got to go get Isaac and bring him here.
Okay. Tony, some dude pops some jewelry on Trisha. What are you going to do? Out of the blue, like this. She's minding her own business, gives him a drink of water, he pops some jewelry on her. Can I take her?
No way.
No way. Randy.
Nowadays, you think he's a pimp, but actually, I believe in Jack and the Beanstalk, Don Quixote, the knight in shining light armor. I'm kind of that way thinking about it, but I like to believe that. But
This is a servant on a camel. It's not quite the knight in shining armor, right? Clint, what are you going to do?
It's tough. I wonder, though, if it's still the same mentality we have today, because back then it sometimes feels like women were almost treated like as possessions,
Uh-huh.
and they could maybe, I her father might say, well, this is a chance for me to get rich off this deal.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't really know, but sometimes I read things, especially in these Bible times, I think they think things differently than they do today.
They do think things differently, but is it as different as you really think?
For a father, to give away his daughter like that, and there's a lot of questions, like, who is this guy? What's he going to be like? Is he going to take care of her?
Well, think about the marriage ceremony, right? You're walking her up the aisle, and what's the first question that's asked? Who gives her? Right? You'd hope, right? Out of the blue like this, can I take her? It's the Lord, Rick.
Who Abraham was. So,
When was the last time you saw Abraham? Okay, so some guy claiming to be the servant of Abraham comes up and says, can I take your daughter to my master's son? You buying that, Rick? You sending faith off with camel guy, Rick?
I think the Lord was working everything out too, and probably gave her peace of mind. You just get that feeling I think you can get from the Lord, and she knew that it was the right thing.
Okay. What do they say in, where did we leave off? 49:50. What did we say in 50? Ben, can you read 50 for us?
Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, the thing proceedeth from the Lord. We cannot speak unto thee bad or good.
All right. And then in 51, he says, behold, Rebekah is before thee. Take her and go, and let her be thy master's son's wife, as the Lord hath spoken. So what does that tell you? Randy.
The Bible has good stories that make you feel you're full of hope, rather than just cynical weighing of pros and cons, this worth it, weighing, should I do this, should I buy this thing, or just
Okay.
like something more higher than just like, is it what, and what's in it for me kind of thing.
So then what's the verse that proves that?
All of them.
What's the verse that proves that? Rick.
Well, one thing after he said, take her, the servant bowed down and worshiped the Lord, and I think they could see that, that hey, this is for real.
Well, it wasn't the first time he had worshiped the Lord either, was it? I think this is the third time, right? So what does this tell you? What's the verse that kind of proves Randy's point about things? Because we like to think about things. We like to plan. We like to understand. We like to scheme. We like to see how all the puzzle pieces are going to fit, right? But is that the way our lives happen? Tony's up there. No, right? Shirley, is that the way your life happens? All neatly laid out, organized, step one, step two? Nothing? No. Right? So, Mark.
To answer Clint's question, if you look at other cultures, especially when I was in the Middle East, and I'm sure it goes back a long ways, it's customary to give people gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't reject a gift, because you do that, you're going into a war. It's a very, very high insult. And I know he was praying about it and searching what to do, and that was a special gift.
The servant was praying, you're talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a special gift because he was testing it all
Okay.
out. And I think that gift was beyond what he should have gave her, but I mean, gifts were customary. And then the second thing is, marriages were arranged at, and some cultures still do that. So it's not like the women have a choice.
Sure, okay. So you're thinking that...
So the Lord, I see the Lord's hand in this all the way together because her father knew the Lord and stuff, because he praised the Lord and all that. And I don't think they were really looking at the gold. They just knew there was something special about that gift, and that was some kind of from the Lord in their eyes.
Okay, so you think that the gift was something special to draw their attention that, well then, if it's of the Lord, why the extravagance of the gift in your mind?
Because the servant said that's the one, because he felt the Lord told him.
Peter?
As the other people that he's around when he had to bury his wife, you are a prince among us. So he was looked upon as royalty.
Sure.
So he was a high-ranking man in most people's minds. And this is his servant coming to ask you for the daughter for his son. I think they're honored.
Okay. So in order to give a sampling of who I represent, right, I will give you an extravagant gift, is what you're saying, right? Okay, so what is that, hang on a second. If we can flip that around on us then, how does that relate to us? Okay, we're jewels for him. Chuck?
For us, and how we would relate to that, what this is that servant of Abraham validating who he is.
Okay.
And if someone came for your daughter,
Bite your
you
tongue,
want to
Chuck.
be sure they are who they say they are.
Uh-huh.
Now, he went the long way around the barn and told his story, right? Speak, right, they said.
Yeah.
He came with a gift that pretty much credentialed him, a con man or someone that's being deceptive is not going to hand you, what was it, 10 shekels worth of jewelry?
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. It's very extravagant. And so, I mean, if we put ourselves in the same context, you'd probably know. And then the Lord's at work here. The same way we all got saved, it's faith that he gave to us. We had a veil or whatever over our eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and God opened it up so we saw. We couldn't have otherwise received it. He gave us that.
Okay.
I think God was at work here, and he gave Bethuel that faith or that insight that this is all true.
Okay. So you think the extravagance then, okay, the extravagance then credentialed the servant. Okay, now flip that around spiritually though, right? Okay. So if you have the father in another country, right, and sends someone to you and gives you an over extravagant, can you say over extravagant? Over extravagant gift to validate him, right? Think about God the Father sending his son as a sacrifice for us, right? Did he need to do that? Could he have sent anything less than Christ? Sure. But what did he send? He sent an over extravagant gift for us to prove what? His love. Right, Sandy? To prove his love. Okay, so what did Abraham send his servant to show an over extravagant gift to prove his love to her? Right? Okay. So it's interesting how even in this story we have examples then of what God did for us. Right? But then what is their response? Their response in 51. Yeah, 51. Take her and go, right? So then how does that translate to us? We're offered a gift, aren't we? Right? We're offered a gift. What do we do with it? We receive it, right? Just like she did. And now, who are we a part of? Exactly. We're a part of God's kingdom. Just like now she goes back and is with him. Okay? Oh, that's interesting. I like that. That's very good. Ma'am, Sandy.
I think it's also interesting that in a few verses beyond that, he gives Rebekah the choice. Do you want to go with him? Or
Yeah.
do you want to stay with us? It's our choice.
Yeah, you're right. Because the servants, he's ready to get up and go, and they're like, no. Let her hang around for 10 days at least. And the servant's like, look, don't hinder me. We're off. We're running. Or let's ask her. And it's up to us, right? Do we accept the free gift? Did she accept the free gift? And now where does she go right away? She's off, just like we as Christians are off, right? Okay, Randy.
Well, I have a question for you. I have actually a question. Let's say a person comes and you respect this person so much you offer your room and live in the closet. What are you telling that person? Is that a fool, the person that would do such a thing, or try to tell this person something special, or what? How would you take it?
Well, it would be that you're showing that person preference, right? Well, you are showing the example of Christ, right? Because what did Christ do? For who? For who? For who? All right, for all of us. Do some accept the gift? Yes. Right? And we're off and we're in the family. Do some reject the gift? I don't want that gift. What if Rebekah was like, dude, get off me. What are you doing? Stop touching me. You can't touch me. Right? And just rejects that. Where is she now? Right? She's lost. She's not part of the family. She's not married into the family. Right? So just like the world, right? They have the same opportunity we have to accept the gift. Do we? Do they? Right? It's an individual choice. Will you go with this man, right? Is that what it said? Yeah, in 58. And they called Rebekah and said unto her, wilt thou go with this man? And what'd she say? I will go. It's weird too. There's not a lot of story. There's not a lot, just I'll go. Right? And then what's interesting then is as the journey back, you got to think on the journey back because there's another 20 days back. So about 5 days in, you're Rebekah, you're going, what did I sign up for? Why am I not there yet? Is this legit? Right? But if we transpose that with our spiritual life, 5 days in, 20 days in, wow, this isn't what I expected. What did you expect? Right? Is it easy? Do we have questions as we go? Yeah. Right? Just like with Abraham, we talked about the questions of faith. She had faith. She's going with a servant she doesn't know. To some place she's being told about. Right? Where are we going? Where are we going with our lives? Someplace we don't know. Someplace we're being told about. Wow, that totally relates to us in that same way. Right? Even in those stories of Isaac and Rebekah here, going back through Abraham, those things still apply to us in more ways that we really think about when we're just reading through. It's a chapter of a story in the Bible, the whole story. We read it in our devotions and we're like, that was neat, and we move on. But there's a whole lot more there, right? 56. 56 is an interesting verse of the servant, right? When they wanted him to delay 10 days, right? What's his response? What's his response? Hinder me not. What does hinder mean? Hold back, resist, right? Who's trying to hold back and resist us? Satan is, right? So as we say yes to the Lord, who's being Laban in our lives? Right? Satan is. He's trying to hinder us. He's trying to hold us back. From what? Going where we're supposed to go. Right? Randy.
Rebekah's father did not say, go. He said, do you want to go?
Yep.
He acknowledged her as an independent entity to make her own mind up. Every one of us is an independent entity. If we're a child of God, Satan tries to control us, but God won't. Like that.
That's an interesting point. where Randy said that she was offered the choice, right? So Mark, yes, there are reigns, but she was offered the choice. You know? And even Clint, she was offered the choice.
The Lord that gives you a choice.
Yep.
Unlike some of these people, they don't have a choice.
Exactly. Right? It's all, that salvation choice, that accepting of that gift, that is on us as individuals. Right? Everybody is offered it. Everybody gets the opportunity to see it. And it's what you as an individual do with it, which is hard as parents because, we love our kids, right? And you want them with you, obviously, in heaven, right? That's a natural tendency there, a natural feeling there. But you can't force it, It is a choice that they themselves have to make. And I think we talked about it a little bit last week when you look at like the kings, where they say, the Lord my God versus the Lord your God, right? And dealing with the prophets and such like that. And how there is a difference in, well, whose God personally is it, right? Where for us, it is our God or can be our God, but for them, it's like, that's Dad's God. I don't know about that, right? Peter.
Some godly kings had wicked sons.
Yeah.
So just having a godly father
means nothing. Yeah. Well, think about Samuel. Man, Samuel is hard. I mean, he's such a great man of God, but his kids were not, and just the drop off between father and son is very drastic. Randy.
I've heard that. That's self-actualizing statement of the father or mother. When you understand you can't control your kids, you just have to accept they're going to be what they are. Liberty, you can just guide them, kind of instruct them, but ultimately you have to accept wherever they come out as. That's kind of a self-actualized. I've heard that, I guess, in modern day whatever,
Yeah, modern day whatever.
That's what we're doing right here, I think.
Yeah, to a degree that is true, but we as parents should have more of an influence in our kids' lives than what we do. I mean, one of the things with Samuel, as the example we talked about, is where did he spend his time? He was always around circuit preaching. Where's his family? If your family's over there, you can't have an influence on your family if you're over there, right? So there's a line, not a line, but a balance. Thank you, of what does God want me to do, and then how does my family work into that, right? Because God we know has strong care for the family, right? Yes, he does have a job for you to do, right? But what is the wife? The wife is a helpmeet to do that work. Well, what are the kids? The kids aren't independent over here, even though that's what a lot of parents do with them, right? No, they should be brought along too, and in that, right? Because think about the Levites, right? And in the house of God. They were brought up in that because what? They're the next replacements. They're the next replacements. And with that, we'll have to end because we are out of time. So that will conclude our epic adventure through God's Word today.